Hello everybody and welcome. I am the Shy Hat and this is HackerFrogs. We're doing an extra credit session today where we're going to be taking a look at SQL injection with SQLmap. That is, we're going to be taking a look at a module on the TryHackMe education platform, and we're going to be working through it to figure out what SQL injection is and how it can be done in an automated way through the SQLmap program. All right, so let's take a look at what we learned in the last workshop leading up to this one. It might help to remind us of what we're working with. Okay, so let's review the SQL concepts we learned in the last workshop. We were talking about blind SQL injection, which was Boolean-based. Boolean-based SQL injection is a type of blind SQL injection where the only output that is returned after a SQL statement is whether the query returned true or false. We also looked at time-based blind SQL injection. It's a type of blind SQL injection where we give the database software an instruction to return a delayed response, and if it responds, we know that the attack was successful. And we also talked briefly about out-of-band SQL injection. Out-of-band SQL injection is a type of SQL injection where the output of any SQL queries can be passed to services outside of the web app's network. And lastly, we talked a little bit about remediation. Remediation is how to secure web apps against vulnerabilities. And in this case, we talked about how to remediate against SQL injection vulnerabilities with practices such as prepared statements with parameterized queries, input validation, and escaping user input. Okay, so today we're going to be dealing with automation, in which case we're talking about automating blind SQL injections and other types of SQL injections by using a program to do so. We're going to be using the following TryHackMe module, which I'm going to be linking in chat. So please navigate to that web page and we'll get started. So SQLmap is a program which people can use to automate SQL injection on a particular vulnerable web server. So the first thing you want to do upon joining the room is to go up to this screen right here, and it says Introduction. So we're talking about SQLmap. So it's an open source penetration testing tool developed by Bernardo Damele Sumcalguiemares and Miroslav Stampar, and it automates the process of detecting and exploiting SQL injection flaws and taking over database servers. So it comes with a powerful detection engine, many niche features for the ultimate penetration tester. So we're going to be dealing with a pre-installed version of SQLmap in this case, so we don't necessarily need to worry about installing SQLmap because we're going to be working with it pre-installed. Okay, so all we need to do for this first section over here is to read the above and have SQLmap at the ready. So all you need to do is click on the complete button over here, and that section will be done. Okay, so the next section over here is using SQLmap. So to show the basic help menu, we would use the SQLmap command and then -H in the terminal. Most of the time when I'm dealing with SQLmap, I like to ask ChatGPT if I have any questions about any commands or any particular flags that are being used inside of SQLmap, because it is usually faster than dealing with going over the help menu. Of course, there are some questions that ChatGPT has difficulty answering, but it's all right. Most of the time, it suffices quite well. So SQLmap has a lot of different options and flags for dealing with a lot of different situations. So for example, you could use, so -U, our URL, is going to tell SQLmap what the target is, and --data is going to be indicating which information to send through post. And there are a lot of other options, including -A for all, which means retrieve everything. This might seem to be something that you want to do by default, but it's not always the case, because sometimes when you're trying to retrieve all the information from very large SQL databases, the amount of information you return from that command is quite overwhelming, so you don't necessarily want to do that. Usually you want to retrieve the data in chunks, so maybe you would first want to get the banner to receive what the database management software is, for example, MySQL or PostgreSQL or SQLite, and then you would try to retrieve the user of the user on the system, and then the name of the current database, and then retrieve password hashes. So you would do it in an iterative kind of sense, just so that you're not overwhelming yourself with information. So SQLmap can also be used to obtain interactive shells with target. So you could use this command right here, OS shell, or you could try to get a interpreter shell or an out-of-band shell. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I've never really done that before. But most of the time, the easiest way to use SQLmap is to get all the information from Burp Suite and then export that, and then use that file in order to access the system when you're using SQLmap, because that makes for a very complete set of information for SQLmap to use, and we'll be demonstrating how to do that in just a few minutes. So going on all the way down to the end, we're going to answer some questions before we move on. So which flag or option will allow you to add a URL to a command? So the answer to this is simply -U. So every SQLmap command has to include the -U parameter in order to be considered a valid SQLmap command. Click on submit, and that's done. So which flag would you use to add data to a post request? So for any of these questions, the answer is, almost all of the answers are contained inside of the current task. So all you need to do is do Control F and search for the terms you want, and you'll usually be able to find the answers you're looking for. For example, here, we're looking for the term post request, P-O-S-T, and the first flag that shows up over here is the answer in this case, so it's -- data. So let's go back down to the questions here, and the answer is going to be -- data. Okay, the next question is, there are two parameters, user and password. How would you tell SQLmap to use the username parameter for the attack? Okay, so in this case, we would search for the word parameter. So it's so in this case, it would be -p. So let's use that as the answer. So it's -p, and then we're using the username parameter. -p username, and we click on submit there, and that is the correct answer. Next is, which flag would you use to show the advanced help menu? So in this case, the keyword here is advanced. So in this case, it is the -HH flag for advanced help. And which flag allows you to retrieve everything? Okay, so if you remember from just a few minutes ago, we were talking about this particular flag. It is -A for all. Next question is, which flag allows you to select the database name? In this case, it would be, I believe it's, okay, let's search for this. So database shows up a lot, so let's try name instead. So this is the answer right here. It is -D. The answer is -D, and click on submit. Which flag would you use to retrieve database tables? Okay, so I think I have a sneaking suspicion that table is going to come up a lot in this section, but we can always go back up to the top and try to find the first instances of it. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be --tables. So we remember that, and then we'll go back down to the bottom. --tables. And which flag allows you to retrieve a table's columns? So if we were to follow the logic, we would probably guess that it's going to be --columns. And that is indeed the correct answer. Next is, which flag allows you to dump all the database table entries? Okay, so all the database table entries. Okay, in this case, the keyword here to search for is dump. So let's search for dump. So this command right here, dump-all, is going to dump all DBMS databases tables entries. Okay? So the answer is --dump-all. And the next question is, which flag will give you an interactive SQL shell prompt? Okay, so this one is not in the typical, inside of this task text over here. So what we can do is we can feed this question over to our good friend ChatGPT. So using this SQLmap software, how do we answer the following question? And then we paste in the question and then supply it to ChatGPT. Okay, so in actuality, this is not the correct answer. So I'll just tell you the answer. So what flag will give you an interactive SQL shell prompt? If you do a little bit of searching, you'll find out that it is SQL-shell. And then click on submit. And that is indeed the answer. Okay. It's a good thing that I remember that. Okay, so the last question is, you know that the current DB type is MySQL. Which flag allows you to enumerate only MySQL databases? So this one is going to be the keyword over here is going to be DBMS. So let's search for that. DBMS. Okay, so it's this flag right here, --DBMS equals DBMS. So we're going to supply the name of the DBMS after the equals over here. So we know that if we know that, we can go back down to the question. So here it's going to be --DBMS equals MySQL. Okay, and then click on submit. And that is the correct answer. Okay, so let's move on to the SQLmap challenge, where we're going to get to test out our SQLmap knowledge. The first thing we need to do is click on Start Machine to start the vulnerable virtual machine that we're going to be interacting with. And the second thing we need to do is we need to start up our attack box. So at the top of the web page, we can click on this button, Start Attack Box. And that's going to split our web browser view into two panes, with the left-hand pane being the TryHackMe web page and the right-hand pane containing the attack box machine that we're going to be using to interact with the vulnerable web server. So this is going to take a little bit to initialize, about 1.5 minutes. So in the meantime, let's talk about HackerFrogs. So HackerFrogs is the channel that I run here, and it can be located at youtube.com/@theshyhat. So I'm going to provide that address in the chat, just in case you wanted to look it up. In the last little while, we've been uploading a lot of videos that have to do with the PicoCTF challenge. So here are some of the videos associated in that playlist. PicoCTF 2024 was an event that happened a few weeks ago, and we fielded a team to solve the challenges inside of that event, and I've documented some walkthroughs on how to solve those challenges. If you want to learn a little bit more about some specific cybersecurity challenges, you can definitely check those out. Please watch them, give them a thumbs up, please leave a comment, all of that good stuff. It would really help the channel out. And let's go back. We still have about 1 minute to go. So I'll talk about the HackerFrogs Reddit page. So HackerFrogs has a Reddit page where we post all about our streaming schedule and a bunch of different topics about how to get into cybersecurity and different learning resources for how to learn about cybersecurity skills. So currently we are in week 15, and we're currently doing the extra credit for HackerFrogs. It is April This shouldn't say April 11th, it should say April 10th. Okay, let me edit that. Just a second. Oh, I'm not logged in. Okay, I'll change it later. Okay, so we see that our attack box has initialized. So we need to click into the terminal here and press the Enter key to close this window. And then after that, we want to put the attack box in its own browser pane, in its own browser tab rather. So we need to click on this button right here, which is in the middle of the screen at the bottom, which is labeled View in Full Screen. So we're going to click on that. And that's going to put the attack box virtual machine in full screen for us to use. And then we can go back to the original TryHackMe webpage and click on this button right here, which is labeled Exit Split View. So it is at the bottom here, Exit Split View, and then we can get the full browser tab for the TryHackMe webpage. Okay, so it says deploy the machine attached to this task, then navigate to this web address right here. So this is the IP address associated with the virtual machine that we just spun up. Your target IP address and my target IP address is probably going to be different. So please use your own when interacting with your vulnerable virtual machine. Okay, so we can click on this right here, copy to clipboard to copy the target IP value. And then we go to the attack box. And what we're going to do is we're going to first start up Burp Suite, because we're going to be using Burp Suite to get our initial information on this web page in order to attack it further with the SQLmap. So click on this icon right here, this blue one that says Burp Suite Community Edition. Just a second, everybody. I'm just taking care of a couple of things. But okay, so we see that the Burp Suite Community Edition has finished loading over here. So at this point, you want to click on the next button, which is right here, and then you want to click on the orange Start Burp button over here. So it's going to start up a new project. Okay, and then it says update is ready to install. We're going to click on later, or we can close the window right here. And from here, we're using Burp Suite. So Burp Suite is a slightly intimidating interface if you haven't used it before, but I'll walk you through it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to click on this proxy tab right here. So we start at dashboard. We have to move over to proxy over here, and then it says intercept is on. We have to switch that to off. So click on this and make sure that the intercept is off is indicated over here. One other thing we need to do is we need to click on Burp, and then we need to click on Settings, and then we need to click on Burp's Browser, which is right here, and we need to click on this button right here that says allow Burp's browser to run without a sandbox. So we need to click on that in order to get things going inside of the attack box. So make sure that this is checked right here. Allow Burp's browser to run without a sandbox, and then close out the settings window by clicking right there. And then we need to open the Burp browser. So the Burp browser is just like any other web browser, except that it's attached to the Burp Suite software, which means that any traffic that is going through the Burp Suite browser is going to be sent directly to Burp Suite, and it can be analyzed using that software. So click on Open Browser, and that's going to start up the browser. It's going to take a little bit to start up, but please be patient. Okay, in the meantime, okay, it seems to have started up. Okay, great. Okay, so if you still have your IP address copied to the clipboard, you can copy in your IP address just like this, and then you can navigate to this page. It says, welcome to Nginx. So this is not the web page we're looking for. So let's go back. Let's go back to the TryHackMe web page right here. And what does it say? It says, task. We have deployed an application to collect blood donations. The request seems to be vulnerable. Exploit a SQL injection vulnerability on the vulnerable application to find the flag. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to do some directory busting in order to find the web page that we're looking for. So let's do a little bit of directory busting. We can do that within the terminal here. So what you would do is you would go over here and click on the terminal button to open up the terminal. And we're going to be using, let's use GoBuster. So GoBuster is a directory busting software. So GoBuster usually, let's see. So GoBuster followed by, I think it's -dir for directory busting. And in fact, let's ask ChatGPT what a typical GoBuster command might look like. What is an example GoBuster command which does directory busting? Okay, so it's provided us an answer over here. So it's GoBuster dir without the dash, and then -u, and then the target URL, and then -w, and then the word list file. So I'm going to copy this and paste it into chat for everybody who needs to use that as a reference. Okay, so let's follow these commands here. So I'm going to delete my, and then so it's -u and then target URL. So I'm going to get the target URL from my TryHackMe webpage over here. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it in. And then we're going to supply a word list file. So a word list file is a file of different directory names that we can test the web server against. And this is how we discover what endpoints are available on the web server. So a very popular file with different directory names is located by default at user share /user/share/ word lists /dirbuster/ I think it was directory list 2.3 -medium.txt. Okay, so this is so I'm going to copy this for everybody in the chat. If you want to use it in your own terminal, all you need to do is substitute the IP address for the one that you have. So if we run this, so it comes back immediately that we have one endpoint right here, which is called /blood. So if we think about it, that's kind of obvious, because if we go back to the task over here, it says we have deployed an application to collect blood donations. So /blood seems like a kind of obvious choice. So we can answer this question right here. What is the name of the interesting directory? And it's going to be blood. And then we click on submit. Okay, and the next question is, who is the current DB user? So we can find that out a little bit later after we enumerate the web application a little bit. So going back to the web page, we can go back to Burp. Actually, we're going to go to Burp's browser, which is this blue button right here. So it's a Chromium browser, and inside of here, we can go to the blood endpoint. And it says here, come on, we know you've got it in you. We're going to test, so we can test a lot of different pages on here for SQL injection vulnerabilities. But just for the sake of convenience, we're just going to give it to you. It's over at the login page right here. So click on login here, and it's going to be username and password. So here, we're just going to do test and test. And then we're going to click on login, and then it's going to say invalid username or pass, please try again. So this is the right way to do it. So some login pages are going to tell you if your username is correct by saying that the password was incorrect. Or if the username was incorrect, it would just say invalid username. But this is the correct syntax right here. If it says invalid username or password, if either of those are incorrect. So just something to think about. Okay, so now that we have this interaction logged in the history rather, we can close out the Chromium. We can minimize the Chromium browser. We don't need to close it necessarily, and then we can go back to Burp Suite. So click on Burp Suite again, and then go to this tab right here, which is labeled HTTP History. So click on that. And then we can go to this post request right here, which is post, and it's to the blood/auth.php endpoint right here. So all we need to do is inside of the request portion of the window, we're going to right click, and then we're going to send this to the repeater. So we're going to make use of the Burp repeater tool. So send to repeater or Control R, click on that. And then you see the repeater tab over here lights up for a little bit. So we're going to go to the repeater tab. So click on that. And we see that our post request to the /blood/auth.php page is right here. And we can even send it. And it's going to give us the raw response. And it says, this is a redirect. So what we need to do is we need to modify the post body in order to test for SQL injection vulnerability. So over here, username test and password test. Instead of test, we're going to provide it with some single quotes. And hopefully this indicates to us, this returns some sort of error message, which would indicate a SQL injection vulnerability. So we can send this again, and it says login error equals true. We can render this, and this is going to show us what it looks like inside of the web browser. So let's try following the redirection. Okay, so let's send it again. Oh, it seems that okay, this is no longer the request we're looking for. Hold on. Okay, let's go back to the proxy HTTP history, and let's send this to repeater again. Okay, and let's try some single quote, double quote, single quote. And we'll try quote, quote, quote over here, and then we're going to send it again. Okay, so basically what I want you to understand is this is a vulnerable endpoint right here. And although we didn't necessarily get the error message over here, I found it in the past, but I'm not sure how to recreate that. But let's move on. Okay, so inside of Burp Suite over here, we can get all of the information to feed to SQLmap by right-clicking on this page, and then we need to use this option right here, which is copy to file. So click on copy to file, and then we're going to get to name this file. I'm going to call it request.txt. Okay, so request.txt, and then we're going to save it out. This is by default going to save out the file to the root directory right here, which is the default directory when you're dealing with the TryHackMe attack box. So save that, and then let's get out of Burp Suite. So we can minimize this, and then we can use SQLmap. Okay, so let's go over what SQLmap we're going to be using today. Let me resize my window a little bit. Okay, so the command is going to be SQLmap and then -r, and -r allows you to use a file to feed all the information to SQLmap, which is what we just did inside of Burp Suite. So we're going to -r and then request.txt, which is the file we created. And then we're going to try to get the current user for this database. So we don't need to supply a URL in this request because inside of the request.txt file, the URL has already been supplied. Okay, so we're trying to get the current user for this database. We're going to use the --current-user flag, and then we're going to run this. Okay, and then SQLmap starts up. It says SQLmap got a 302 redirect. Do you want to follow? Okay, so we're going to say yes. All we need to do is press enter. Redirect is a result of a post request. Do you want to resend original post data to a new location? We're going to say yes. And then it looks like the backend DBMS is MySQL. Do you want to skip test payload specific for other DBMSs? In this case, we're also going to say yes. So SQLmap is a very powerful piece of software, and it's able to automate a lot of different interactions for us. Do you want to include all tests for MySQL extending provided level 1 and RISC-1 values? Okay, we're going to say yes. So it does a lot of different testing for SQL injection, and then it says post parameter username is vulnerable. Do you want to keep testing the others, if any? So in this case, if we know that one parameter is vulnerable, we don't necessarily need to test for anything else. So we're going to say no, which is also just enter. So in this case, it was able to retrieve this information for us. Current user is root at localhost. So it was able to use some SQL function in order to return the name of the current user, which is running the software. In this case, it's root, which is really good for us and really bad for the web application. So we have the answer for the next question. So my music stopped. I'm going to restart it up again. So with this information right here, we can go back to the TryHackMe webpage, and it says who is the current DB user. And the answer is root. And we click on submit. And that's done. Okay, so let's proceed with enumerating the rest of this database right here. So the next thing we want to do is try to enumerate the name of the current database. So this is very similar to what we did in the last command, except that the flag current user is replaced with current-db. So this is going to give us the name of the database that the SQL database is working with inside of the web application. So we run that. We're going to say, we're going to give default answers for all of these questions right here, and then it retrieves the name of the database. And the name of the database is blood. So we are going to need the name of this database in order to do further enumeration. Next, we're going to try to find the tables inside of this database. So we're going to run another SQLmap command. And in this case, we're going to specify the name of the database. So that's going to be -d, and that's going to be blood. And we're going to enumerate the tables in this database. So it's going to be --tables. So inside of the blood database, we're going to enumerate all the names of the tables. So we're going to run the SQLmap command. We're going to say yes to all of this. So we see that it retrieved 3 different tables here. Inside of the blood database, there's blood _db, there's flag, and there's users. So since we know that in all of these cybersecurity exercises, we're looking for the value of the flag, we can ignore all of the other tables and just go for this table right here labeled flag. So we just, the next SQLmap command we're going to do is get the columns. So it's going to be --columns. And the other thing we need to do is we need to specify which table we're referring to, in which case it's --T, and it's going to be flag. So -d blood, -T flag, and then --columns. Okay, so run that. We say yes to all of this. And we see that we've retrieved 3 different columns inside of this table right here. There's flag, there's ID, and there's name. So now that we have the names of the database, the tables, and the columns, we can dump all the information in a specific table. So how we do that is we're going to do -d blood, -T flag, and then for the last one, it's going to be --dump. --dump. So that's going to dump all the contents of this particular table. Let's start that command. Say yes and yes. Okay, and we've retrieved the all the information inside of the flag table, which is this entry right here, ID1, flag, THM, SQLmap is love, and then name, flag. So that is the answer for this particular problem right here. This is the answer for the last question in the task. So copy over here, highlight this, Control-Shift-C to copy, and then go to the TryHackMe webpage. What is the final flag? All you need to do is paste in the flag and click on Submit. And it says, congratulations, you completed this room, share it with your friends. We're going to skip that, but that's fine. Okay, so that was using SQLmap to solve solve some SQL injection problems. So some of the main takeaways from this particular module is that you can use SQLmap to automate a lot of the tedious types of SQL injection, such as blind SQL injection or time-based SQL injection. The best way to make use of SQLmap is to get your information from Burp Suite. So inside of Burp Suite, we need to first identify a vulnerable endpoint, and then save the request that was made to the vulnerable endpoint by doing right click and then copy to file. So copy to file, and then we can create a file that contains all of the request details to that particular endpoint, including stuff like the URL and the content type, and any cookies that we were using in order to access the page. So that's all very important for using SQLmap, because if you don't use this method to use SQLmap, it can get kind of confusing. The syntax can be kind of messy. But yeah, that's it for this particular module. I hope everybody enjoyed working through this. Let's before we finish off the session, let's go over to the Reddit page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend some different cybersecurity platforms. So there's a lot of different cybersecurity education platforms. We're going to introduce a few of them before we end the stream. But first of all, I'm going to log into my Reddit right here, which means I have to get my login information. Just a second. Okay, so I noticed that there was some inaccurate information over here, so I'm going to correct that. Just a second, I need to edit this post. The edit button should be in here. Okay, it seems that I can't find the edit button. That's kind of embarrassing. Okay, so let's go over these cybersecurity education platforms first. So the first one we're going to talk about is this one right here. It's called Hacking Hub. It's going to be hackinghub.io. So this is a relatively, I'm going to paste it in the chat for everybody to take a look at. So hackinghub.io is another cybersecurity platform, but it was created by a few well-known cybersecurity creators, content creators. One of them is Nahamsek, and another one of them is John Hammond. So they're both kind of very popular cybersecurity content creators on YouTube. And they started up this website right here, which is somewhat similar to platforms like TryHackMe and Hack the Box. So I'm going to log into this website. Hold on. I need to get my information from my password manager. So Hacking Hub Hacking Hub is a cybersecurity education platform which offers real infrastructures and scenarios to hack against, which are built by hackers for hackers. So I am logged in, so I'm going to demonstrate how to use Hacking Hub. So you go to this tab right here, which is labeled Hubs. So each one of the interactive education modules in Hacking Hub are called Hubs. The first one you're going to encounter is labeled this one, which is Start Here. So I'm going to go to this one. So there's a Start the Hub question right here, and it says now your hub is launched and you'll be given a scope. So what you need to do next is click on the Launch Hub button, which is located right here. And that's going to start a virtual machine. So it seems that each one of these virtual machines is set to last for about an hour. And then where the virtual machine is located is located right here. Okay, and it says actions open. Okay, so we're given a scope to hack against, which is this URL right here. Hubs often contain subdomains. This hub contains the subdomain admin. Trying to view this in your browser to collect another flag and answer question 3. So in each one of these hubs, the goal is to answer questions based on what you find inside of the different virtual machines or inside of the education material. So what is the flag on the main website? In this case, we can access the hub by clicking on Open right here. And then the flag for this particular question is located right here, so we can copy that and provide that as the answer. But I've answered this question. And what is the flag on the subdomain? So, as mentioned above, our hubs often contain subdomains. This hub contains the subdomain admin. So if we know how to access subdomains on a website, all we need to do is go to the original website right here, and then we need to access the subdomain, which is going to be admin dot. So admin dot is admin is the name of the subdomain. Dot indicates that we're accessing the subdomain on this. So the primary domain right here is CTF.io. And then there's a subdomain here, which is start, and another subdomain here, which is probably individualized for each user. But there's an additional subdomain within that, which is called admin. So what we need to do is access that to get our next flag, which is this flag right here. And we would use this to answer the next question. Okay, and it says that there are 4 questions. Okay, so start the hub is 1, and then answer the 2 questions, and the last question is kill the hub. So at the end of each one of these rooms, hubs rather, to be nice to the owners of the website, what we should do is we should kill the server in order to not waste computing resources. So we'll just do that, and that's going to finish off the room. So each one of these rooms is made up of a bunch of different tasks, and we can order them by from newest first. Maybe we'll go from easiest first. And you notice that there are not only challenge rooms, but there are also educational modules. So in this case, there's this one module called Security Precursor, and that's very useful for learning some basic information about IT and how websites work and all that good stuff. So inside of this module right here, there's some great modules on the basics like what is the internet, what is an IP address, what is DNS, and etc. and and etc. and etc. Okay, so that was Hacking Hub. So that's one of my choices for cybersecurity education platforms. Another great cybersecurity education platform is, let's see, what's the next one? TryHackMe.com. We used a TryHackMe.com module for today's extra credits session, but I still think that TryHackMe.com is probably the easiest cybersecurity education platform for newbies to get into. Once you're in, you can go over to Learn. And it's going to supply you with a lot of different learning paths that you can go down. Each one of these learning paths is going to contain a bunch of different modules for you to complete in order to get a bunch of different information. And some of the modules also come with certificates that you can receive, virtual certificates that you can receive after you've completed them, which is nice. But most of the time, these certificates are also tied to a paid subscription, which you will need to have in order to access some of the rooms inside of these learning paths. So that's TryHackMe. Another great cybersecurity platform is Hack the Box Academy. And Hack the Box Academy is another good cybersecurity education option, but the thing about Hack the Box Academy is that there are a lot of modules that you can access for free, but and there's a lot of good information you can get from them, but it's a bit difficult to deal with their payment system, which are called cubes. And you've got the system where if you complete a whole module, you'll get some of your cubes back, and you receive a number of cubes when you create your account. But it seems to be a bit complicated to deal with, unless it seems that they still have their cube system in place. It's a good option to take a look at. There is a lot of good information there. But it can be a bit difficult to navigate and to deal with as far as trying to get as much as you can for free. Okay, so that was Hack the Box Academy. Next, we'll talk about PicoCTF. So I'm a big fan of PicoCTF. We just completed the PicoCTF challenge. And on the PicoCTF webpage, they have a lot of different challenges on the practice section over here, and this includes a lot of different challenges. So so this is 12 challenges per page, and it goes up to about 32. So 32 times 12. Let me do the math. Okay, 32. So that is something in the neighborhood of 380 challenges that they have sitting here, and they're all free. And they run the whole gamut from extremely easy to extremely difficult. Most of the time, the ones that you'll find on page 1 are going to be the easiest ones, worth the least number of points. And points is how they roughly gauge how difficult a challenge is. So each one of these has its own challenge description page, and then it has the resources that you're going to need to access in order to solve the challenge. And they also have a great web terminal right here, which you can access from the internet. It's called the PicoCTF web shell, and the PicoCTF web shell is a very convenient tool to have when you're solving these Pico CTF challenges, because it provides an environment in which you can put all of your tools and run all of your programs. It's not perfect, of course, seeing that it can only give you access to CLI tools. So if you're dealing with any programs that don't interact directly with the command line interface, then that's not going to help you. But I would say a lot of the challenges here are solvable purely with the Pico CTF web shell. So that's great. So Pico CTF, I'll leave a link in the chat for everybody. Okay, so there's let's see. We'll cover two more before we end the stream. The next one is going to be the Portswigger Academy. Portswigger Web Security Academy, and this is a very comprehensive. I'm going to link this URL in the chat. And the Web Security Academy is purely deals with web app security, but it's a very extensive learning resource for learning about web application vulnerabilities. And it also has interactive labs that you can spin up. And the best thing about Portswigger Academy is that it's completely free. So we could do something. We could go to a section like, let's see, what is a very simple topic? How about directory listing? What is the other? Directory traversal, okay. So path traversal. So it'll tell you all about the web app security vulnerability that is path traversal over here, and then it defines it. It has a YouTube video over here, and talks about some of the potential vulnerabilities through path traversal here. And there are some labs that you can spin up. Of course, you need to be logged into the system in order to access the labs, but signing up is completely free, so you don't have to worry too much about that. You just need to have a valid account, and it's a very great resource for learning about web app security, period. Okay. All right, so the last education resource we're going to be taking a look at is pwn.college. So it's located at pwn.college. And like Pico CTF, pwn.college is also created by a university. In the case of Pico CTF, it was created by Carnegie Mellon University, and in the case of pwn.college, it was created by the University of, I think it's the University of Arizona. So in pwn.college, it offers a very extensive interface. I'm going to log in to show you exactly what it looks like. So let me grab my credentials just really quick. So here I am the Shy Hat, and I'm going to input my password. Okay, and inside of here, so I'm going to click on this Get Started module over here to get started. So each one of these learning paths inside of pwn.college is called a dojo. So that's what they use to illustrate the learning process. And inside of each dojo, there's a bunch of challenges that you have to solve. So in this case, the module is called Using the Dojo. So what we need to do is we need to access the different workspaces. So inside of pwn.college, you can interact with the system through different interfaces, such as the VS Code workspace, the graphic user interface desktop workspace. So there's there's these two. So there's the VS Code workspace and the desktop workspace. So for example, if we were to click on desktop, it says no active challenge, start a challenge. So we need to start a challenge before we're able to interact with the desktop. So let's go back to the previous page. So using the GUI desktop. So this also starts up a virtual machine that is associated with the challenge. If we click on start, it's going to spin up a virtual machine for us to interact with. Challenge successfully started. You can interact with the VS Code or GUI desktop. So if we then click on desktop, I'm going to put this in a different tab. Then we were able to access the virtual machine desktop, which has the challenge associated with this. So in this case, it's a fully working VM desktop, which is probably running some sort of modified version of Ubuntu. But it says here Arizona State. Okay, so I think the university's name is Arizona State University. So if we get the so this says Ubuntu. Okay, so this is a version of Ubuntu right here. But yeah, so pwn.college is an excellent resource for learning specifically about low-level programming, reverse engineering, and binary exploitation. So we can take a look here. So I'm going to go to Dojos, and then we can do something like Intro to Cybersecurity. This is one learning set path. Oh, they also have a section on cryptography. Oh, that's great. Okay. So I think I wanted to go to Dojos. I think it might be in fundamentals. Okay, so they have this great module right here, which is about assembly crash course. So it talks all about what you need to know to understand low-level programming languages and doing exploitation, which is binary exploitation and reverse engineering. So that's pwn.college. Okay, so I think that's all the time we have for today. If anybody has any questions, you can type them in the chat, and if you come across this later as a VOD on YouTube, you can also type any questions you want in the comments. But that's all we have for today. The next stream is going to be on Friday. It's going to be on April. Is it going to be on the 13th, or is it going to be? It's going to be on the 12th. It's not going to be on the 13th. So please definitely go by the day of the week, not what is printed here. So it's going to be PicoCTF 2024 Challenge Walkthrough Part 3. So we only have a few challenges left to go through in the PicoCTF 2024 event. I'm not going to be going through any of the challenges that I didn't finish. So there's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 challenges we're going to be completing on Friday. But apart from that, next Monday we're going to have our next regular HackerFrogs After School session / workshop, and we're going to be going over the basics of using the Burp Suite web app testing framework, and that's going to be on Monday at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until then, and for the rest of the week, I hope everybody has a great time, and we'll see you the next time.